you want to think of your company as pods, okay? A pod is a micro team that is managing a certain client list in order for them to be able to kind of operate like their own marketing company. What we like to do is we like to have 3 or 4 people in a pod. And I'll show you guys an example of each. When I say 3, I'm talking about an AM, which is an account manager. The role of this person is to make sure to come up with a strategy and make sure that everything is being done on time. The people under the account manager are going to be the MBs, which are, in our situation, the media buyers. If you have a content agency, that might be the team who's actually recording the videos or someone that is editing the video. So you have your account manager, your media buyer, which is specific to us, okay? But you can obviously swap it to whatever is important for you. Now, the third person is very much so related to what you do. So what we like to have is either an additional media buyer or a graphic designer or a client success manager. Now, you're able to interchange these people based on your service offering, but in this situation, let's say you have a marketing company that runs paid ads, just like we do. So we have an account manager, we have a media buyer, and I do have different tier pods. So this one is what we call a mid-tier pod, where you have an account manager, a media buyer, another media buyer, okay, and a CSM, which is the client success manager, kind of chips in when needed, okay? So this person understands what's going on. However, they are not directly only for this pod, which makes them kind of like a joker, so you're able to utilize them as you see fit. Now, if you have a content agency, what this pod could potentially look like is an account manager, a videographer, and an editor. And the problem is, when you're first starting off with your agency, you treat the one pod like it's your whole company. You need to have strict goals and rules of what a pod can and cannot handle. And you, as a owner, you can start interchanging yourself for one of these individuals. So the mistake I did when I first started off was, this was me, okay, this was me, and then I had someone who was also helping me run the ads, and I had someone who was also helping me with sales, and I had someone who was also helping me set appointments, and we were all on the same level, so nobody really knew who to report to other than just me, because obviously as a business owner, people want to report back to you, but that made it such a bad bottleneck, because what ended up happening is that if I wasn't a joker and was amazing at everything, it did not allow me to scale. Now, what I suggest for you guys is to set up a pod and say, for example, X pod can handle a maximum of 20 clients, okay? And you have to have the revenue for these clients also attributed to them. So let's say you're charging, $3K per month, okay? So this pod is gonna be a 60K pod rev. Okay, and then you need to figure out what this pod is going to cost you. So let's say you're following this type of pod and you're like, okay, cool. Let's just say the AM is gonna generate, I'm just throwing out numbers here, but let's just say 5K per month, and the media buyers are gonna generate 2K per month, okay? So your total pod cost in this situation is 9K. Now you need to sit down and decide, okay, do I have enough business expenses that is going to offset this pod to make it very close to being a thin profit margin? If the answer is yes, you're probably doing it the wrong way. If you're doing it the right way, then you'll be able to also increase your prices. I'll give you guys an example of this. We have a pod within our company that is straight up an account manager directly with a media buyer. So we call this a senior pod. However, the benefit of this pod is that what you're able to do is you can limit them to, for example, 5 high-end clients. Okay, these are like high-end clients. You want to make sure that your team is very well equipped to, number one, serve these people, and number two, very well equipped to even take on more clients, but you physically don't let them because you want them to focus and generate the best results for these clients. Let's say in this situation, these 5 clients are paying $20K per month each. Now, I know these numbers might sound wild and very high for, let's say, a beginner agency owner. I just think it's important for you guys to know that if you're gonna charge $3K for the rest of your life as a marketing company, you're gonna make it very difficult for yourself to grow. You need to evolve into an elite agency that can provide an elite service. Now, in a senior pod, you can also have like little helpers right here that are under the media buyer that can help them do their job better. So for example, this can be the funnel person, this can be the graphic designer, this can be the video editor. But nevertheless, it is still technically, this is the main part of that pod, which in terms, this pod, 5 times 20, that's $100K a month pod, which will allow you to also pay more money for this team. So in this situation, you can pay the account manager, let's say $10K per month, and the media buyer maybe $5K per month, which will, number 1, allow you to hire better talent. Number 2, it will allow you to retain your team members longer. And number 3, it will allow you to make even more profit, dollar-wise and margin-wise. So if you guys remember the example we gave here, 9K out of 60 is still less than 15K out of 100, okay? So at the end of the day, what you wanna do is you need to set strict goals so that these pods are more beneficial than just feeding all your clients to one pod.